Hello and welcome to StudyIQ. I am your friend Rahul Saigaonker. The discussion today is connected to a big news about United States of America. You can see here, USA decides to rejoin UNESCO after a 5-year hiatus. In this video lecture, we are going to discuss the news in totality. So what are we going to understand? Firstly, we are going to discuss UNESCO, the United Nations Specialized Agency. Then we'll jump into the news. You can see here, USA decides to rejoin. The keyword here is rejoin. That means at one point of time, USA had withdrew from UNESCO. We are going to understand why USA withdrew from UNESCO in the first instance and why today they are looking towards UNESCO, why they want to rejoin again. The next question is, if USA is looking to rejoin, have they already joined? What are the conditions of their joining? When will they join? This would also be discussed. And at the end of the discussion, we are going to discuss a historical fact connected to USA and UNESCO. All these things would be covered in the next few minutes. To get to know all this information, stay with me till the very end. Let us begin. But before that, if you're preparing for UPSC Civil Services examination, then StudyIQ brings to you the most comprehensive program, Prelims to Interview Initiative. The entire guidance, coaching, counseling would be taking place in English. This is the first English batch. It is starting from 19th of June. Please mark your calendars. If you have already enrolled, I'll see you in the class. If you have not enrolled, then do it as soon as possible, because we will be hand-holding you through your prelims, through mains, and for your interview 2024 as well. Just visit our website www.studyiq.com. You'll get all the information. For maximum discounts, do use the code RAHULLIVE when you check out. I'll see you in the class. All right, let's begin. As I told you, the news is huge. United States of America has decided to rejoin UNESCO. They are going to join next month, that is July 2023. This was already announced. Press release happened at the UNESCO website itself. So first we'll talk about UNESCO. Right? UNESCO is a United Nations specialized agency. UNESCO stands for United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization. Please remember, it is not one of the 5 primary organs of United Nations. You know, United Nations has five primary organs of 5 primary bodies. United Nations General Assembly, United Nations Security Council, United Nations ECOSOC, International Court of Justice, and the Secretariat. There is also a 6th body, which is the Trusteeship Council, which is more or less defunct as of now. That's why we say 5 primary bodies. So this is not one of those. This is United Nations specialized agencies. There are many other specialized agencies. This agency works specifically for improving educational, scientific and cultural aspects throughout the globe. It works very closely with United Nations Development Program to implement the Sustainable Development Goals. As I told you, UNESCO it stands for United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, which is looking for some sort of global cooperation in these fields, education, science and culture. What was the objective of this? Now, we had seen 2 world wars. We saw World War I, World War II, both of them in the span of approximately 30 to 35 years. So it was realized that just international peace and stability will not ensure sustainable peace. And that is why UNESCO came with a mandate that only peace, economy and political agreements among the nations are not enough to ensure human development. And that is why they ventured into other aspects like the educational, science, cultural aspects. It came into force in 1946 when the 20th member of this UNESCO, they ratified the agreement. The headquarters of UNESCO is in Paris, France. Please remember these factoids from MCQ perspective. The parent body or the parent organization under which UNESCO comes is the primary organ, that is ECOSOC. I told you the 5 bodies. One among them is the United Nations Economic and Social Council. All right, now you know this. So these are some of the facts about UNESCO. The next question is, so what do they do? You told me that they work towards cooperation in education, sciences, culture. What have they done exactly? I told you they began modestly in 1946 when the 20th member ratified. So 1945, United Nations started. 1946, UNESCO started. Since then, UNESCO has achieved many milestones. They have finalized many agreements. They have signed many conventions. There are 193 members as of today with UNESCO. In 1950, UNESCO first passed a statement against racism. UNESCO launched a major global program to combat racism. UNESCO started to work in 1950s to spread literacy campaigns through many countries, through Italy, through Korea, through different countries. From 1950s, they have worked for betterment of educational status in many countries in African continent as well. Apart from that, in 1950, they helped or they endorsed the creation of CERN. CERN is European Council for Nuclear Research. We do know they have pioneered physics-based research. A few years back, they also gave us evidence of the God particle, that is Higgs boson. In 1950s, they also finalized the Universal Copyright Convention, which stands even till today. Apart from that, in 1970s, they aimed to stop smuggling. Convention on illicit trafficking of cultural objects was finalized by UNESCO. And one of the flagship programs of UNESCO, it was signed in 1971. UNESCO's Man and Biosphere program was born. And you do know, in India, we have 18 biosphere reserves, which are supported by UNESCO. This is one of the most important programs. You must have heard about this if you're preparing for UPSC Civil Services for sure. Apart from this, in 1972, World Heritage Convention was signed. And under this, many of India's architectural marvels are now under the World Heritage Convention, where they get support, finances, all the other aspects from UNESCO itself. Apart from this, in 1997, they also gave a Universal Declaration on Human Genome. Again, an aspect connected to education. In the 21st century, they also finalized Intangible Heritage Convention. India's many intangible heritage practices like the Sankirtan, like the Nowruz festival, right, like the Ram Leela, etc., they have been added into UNESCO's intangible heritage list. Latest about the response towards COVID-19, UNESCO has helped globally for responding towards COVID-19. So what I want to tell you here is that UNESCO is a body which is not just political, economic. It expands its cooperation into other aspects, other dimensions like education, promotion of scientific research, promotion or preservation of cultures through these intangible heritage convention, World Heritage Convention. And they also publish some flagship reports. UNESCO releases flagship publications. Global Education Monitoring Report is released by UNESCO. United Nations World Water Development Report, this might be confusing if I put it as an option, so it is released by UNESCO. They also work towards world trends in freedom of expression and media development. It's not Transparency International, please remember it is UNESCO. And then there is Global Ocean Science Report, this is also released by UNESCO. So overall, UNESCO is working towards betterment of world, towards human development. So this was details about UNESCO, the first part. Now let's jump into the news. I told you that USA wants to rejoin UNESCO, right? That means at one point of time they withdrew. So when did they withdraw, right? When did they withdraw from UNESCO? Everybody knows that they withdrew from UNESCO during Donald Trump's presidency. But it was not just during Trump's presidency that the trends of withdrawal started. The trend started from 2011 itself. USA has been one of the founding members of UNESCO, but we have seen USA at loggerheads with UNESCO since 2011. And in 2011, it was the presidency of Barack Obama. In 2011, UNESCO took a very big step. They added a permanent member into their fold, and it was Palestine. Over this issue of adding Palestine as a permanent member state into UNESCO, USA stopped its funding in 2011 itself. Over the issue of Palestine, we do know where the Western countries stand, right? Western countries like USA, United Kingdom, Germany, etc., they do not recognize Palestine as a complete state, and UNESCO inducted them as a member state, and USA stopped the funding. And at that time, in 2011, United States of America was funding 22% of complete or total funds of UNESCO. That means if UNESCO was getting 100 rupees, out of that 22 rupees used to come from USA itself. Those 22 rupees stopped in 2011 itself. Please remember this. But the ultimate step, or the nail in the coffin, it came in 2017. Now you must be thinking why this step was taken for cutting the funding, because there is an act in United States of America. It's called the Foreign Assistance Act, which states that any multilateral organization, even United Nations organization, if they recognize Palestine as a member, then their assistance would be stopped. Because of that, this step was taken. But as I told you, the ultimate nail in the coffin, it came in 2017 under the presidency of Donald Trump. He withdrew USA from UNESCO formally. Now you must be thinking, why did he do it? Now this was in line with the policies or the thought process of former President Donald Trump. Why? Because there was broader skepticism towards multilateral institutions. We have seen that during the 4 years of Trump, from 2017 to 2021, 2016 to 2020 approximately, but the presidency starts from January next year. So 2017 to 2021, we have seen that, isn't it? He withdrew United States of America from the Trans-Pacific Partnership. He withdrew from WHO. He withdrew forces from Afghanistan, from Iraq, right? From at the global level, America was looking inward. It was America for Americans. The entire MAGA movement, right? Make America Great Again movement started, right? That's why he withdrew. So this happened in 2017, although the trend started in 2011 itself. But now, today, USA wants to return to UNESCO. Now you must be thinking, sir, in just 5 years, what has happened? Now, some credit has to go to the Director General of UNESCO, Audrey Azoulay. Audrey Azoulay herself is a Jewish leader. She has worked commendably to bring all the parties to the table. She has brought some sort of consensus. She has been discussing USA's return into UNESCO with the Chinese counterparts, with the Palestinian ambassador who is with UNESCO and other players also. And finally, UNESCO has announced that USA would be rejoining very, very soon. So some credit must go to Audrey Azoulay for sure. But there is a bigger reason behind this. It's about US policy itself. We can see the news here. USA is going to rejoin UNESCO and they are going to pay all the dues. They are going to pay their share, which is approximately more than $600 million. That funding would come to UNESCO and they would be joining formally probably next month, July 2023. But you can see the big reason is this: to counter the Chinese influence. Now you must be thinking, what kind of influence is China having on these United Nations organization? You can see, since US has taken a step back from the global politics, global level, China is trying to fill that void. China is trying to play a bigger role at multilateral organizations, which was clearly highlighted by the Secretary of State. In March 2023 itself, Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, he said that United States of America, its absence from UNESCO has allowed for China to expand its wings, for China to expand its prominence at the world level. When he was giving a deposition in front of the Senate committee, he enunciated that I very much believe we should be back in UNESCO. And please remember, he said it is not for the sake of UNESCO, right? Very, very realist words, right? He said, I very much believe we should be back in UNESCO, again, not as a gift to UNESCO, but because there are some things that are happening at UNESCO which we should not miss. He said at UNESCO, people or the members are working to frame rules, norms, and standards, especially for artificial intelligence, and we cannot stay back from this. China is leading these rules, norms, and the regulations for AI. So US said we cannot stay back. Now US has announced they will be formally joining UNESCO again. The next question is it up to the whims and fancies of United States of America to withdraw once, rejoin once? No. Once the withdrawal has happened, once the withdrawal has been approved by UNESCO, then to rejoin there are some procedures. How can someone become a member? UNESCO as of today has 193 members and 12 associate members, and the membership itself is governed by the Constitution of USA. Article 2 and Article 15 of UNESCO, they govern admission, which says that the decision has to be taken by UNESCO General Conference. UNESCO General Conference, if they vote that a particular member, first of all, they have to apply for UNESCO membership, and when the General Assembly, they pass a resolution by 2/3 majority, then only US will be joining. Now you must be thinking, sir, is there a possibility that this resolution may not pass? Highly unlikely, because people have welcomed, because USA is a bigger player. USA is bringing more than $600 million. I wouldn't expect that this resolution would be failed. It would be passing, because even China's response has been quite positive. Chinese ambassador Jing Yang, he has appreciated that US bringing US into the UNESCO's fold, it is going to have a positive impact itself. He said that USA missing out of this already had some sort of negative impact. So we welcome US into the fold of UNESCO. So very soon, probably next month, we will be looking at US rejoining the UNESCO soon. When it happens, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the news, right? But let us end the discussion with a small historical snippet. Has US done this before? Nobody had expected this from United States of America, and who talk about rule of law, who talk about human rights, who talk about liberalism, etc. And they backing out from a United Nations specialized agency which works towards education, science, and cultural development. But this is not the first time that USA has withdrawn from UNESCO. First time they did it in 1984, and that time president was Ronald Reagan. He had criticized UNESCO of bias towards USSR, and he withdrew USA from UNESCO. And USA was out of UNESCO from 1984 till 2003. For a very long time, they were not involved with UNESCO's activities. Finally, in 2003, it was George W. Bush who rejoined UNESCO. Now, the intention was something else. You do know in 2003, George W. Bush started a war on Iraq, citing that there are weapons of mass destruction. So he had an idea that he wanted to send a message at the international level that we need international cooperation on its war on Iraq. So that's why US had joined. Very, very realist ideas even for joining or withdrawing from UNESCO, isn't it? So this is a historical snippet. It's not the first time that USA withdrew and it is rejoining. It's actually the second time. They withdrew in 1984. They withdrew again in 2017. They had rejoined in 2003. And now after 20 years, they're rejoining in 2023. All right. So that was the complete discussion. Let's wait and watch. If there are any developments over this, if any news comes over this, we'll discuss that on StudyIQ for sure. All right. Thank you for watching this video. And if you have liked this video, you can always follow me on my social media handle @RahulSai22. Thank you for watching this video again. Jai Hind.